going on, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in. We are going to talk a little NBA Finals. Now, I know, unfortunately, the Suns are not in the finals this year. Maybe not for a while, but I have been there covering these games. Was in OKC for games 1 and 2 over at the Paycom Center. I got a 5:40 a.m. flight tomorrow morning, heading over to Indianapolis. I'll be covering games 3 and 4, and for as many games as this ends up playing out before we have a new champion, I figure if I'm at the games, might as well talk about them and kind of just thoughts on how the first 2 went and what comes next here on the next few games. Before the series started, I really thought Indiana was going to be lucky to get a game. I thought there was a good chance this was going to be a sweep. I thought that these teams were kind of mirror images of each other, except pretty simple that the Thunder were better at everything. Star point guard, well, they have the MVP. Like, okay, Tyrese Halliburton's nice, but he's no Shea. Oh, you got a bench? Oh, the Thunder have a much better bench, and they go much deeper, and everyone kind of can all 3-and-D anyone that comes off of there. Oh, you have versatility? Yeah, like we can go with the 2 big lineup of Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein. We also can go 4 guards and stretch the court. We can pretty much play however we want, up-tempo, half-court. Oh, you got a nice secondary guard? Jalen Williams was an all-star. Chet Holmgren's kind of coming to his own. I mean, you just go up and down the list, and everything that made Indiana a very, very good team this year is what made the Thunder an incredible team this year because they were a little bit better at it. And I was just like, you can't beat a team playing the way that they want to play when they're better than you. It's really hard. And so the only thing that would be the one hang-up that you would look at the Thunder and say, maybe that's something there, is they're still such a relatively young team, and they have not been tested like this in this arena at this level, that you thought maybe they could waver a little bit. Maybe there would be some kind of points down the stretch where they got a little tight. And you thought maybe they got over the hump of doing something like that after they were able to take down the Nuggets in 7. But maybe this team, if it's in a close game down the stretch, they haven't always been great at closing out games. Maybe that's where, there'd be an advantage in Indiana, considering that Halliburton's on an all-time heater in clutch moments, and that this team, it doesn't matter how much they're down, they just keep fighting, and then all of a sudden they get momentum, and all of a sudden they come back and they find a way to win the game. And so you thought maybe that would be something, but your margin for error is almost nothing if you're Indiana. I was like, I don't see it. I was like, this is a gentleman's sweep, probably a sweep. Then game 1 happened. I was like, okay, well, that was everything that we thought that would be the one way that Indiana could win this thing is what happened. Thunder were up the entire time. They get really tight down the stretch. They do some really strange coaching adjustments. I don't think Daigneault had his best game as OKC's head coach, decided to go away from his bigs, only playing Chet like 21 minutes in that game. And they kind of took all of the ancillary pieces off the board and said, SGA, like, they're going to have to beat us. Now, he gave them buckets. I mean, anytime you go for 40, like, you're doing okay. But they didn't get a lot of help. And the one guy that did play pretty well in that game, I thought, was Alex Caruso, who's a guy you would expect who's always performed big on big stages and has a lot of experience winning the ring with the Lakers. But they were on the precipice of, like, pulling away in that thing. And then Indiana just gets hot, gets lucky. A banked-in 3 by Miles Turner. Nembhard goes and hits some just ridiculous shots down the stretch. And then, of course, Tyrese Halliburton with the heroics. And you're like, okay, maybe we got ourselves a series. I thought that made it a little interesting. I'm sad to say I still don't think this is going to be much of a series. Game 2, same thing as game 1, competitive first quarter. And after that, really boring. Really kind of pulled away. That game was done, it felt like, at halftime. Indiana never really made a run in the second half worth speaking about. And they just cruise. and pick up another double-digit win. And so now every stat alive that you look up says that the Thunder are just dominating and they should just roll in this thing. They are now 30-2 on the year against Eastern Conference opponents. 30-2. They went 29-1 during the regular season. Now they're 1-1 in the finals. It's pretty good. They've also set the record for most double-digit wins in a season. They had over 50 of them during the regular season. They've only gotten a little bit better and added on a few more here in the postseason. That's pretty good. They just continue to pile up wins and just records. Their point differential is the greatest of all time. I mean, they're just blowing people out. And they showed again in game 2, one of my other favorite stats about this team, they have yet to lose back-to-back games this entire year. When they lose one, they make adjustments. The team responds. They come back and win the next game. It's really hard to keep them down. You may take one, but it's like they're coming back the very next night. And that's crazy to not have dropped 2 straight games. And it just feels like Indiana got their one, they got lucky, and the series is now going to be done in 5. But it could get interesting, and I really hope it does. We're heading back to Indiana. That crowd is going to be super hyped and excited, and I'm seeing what I'm curious is, does that get to Oklahoma City a little bit? It's one thing playing in front of your home crowd. They have such a crazy fan base that everyone wears the shirts. It's so loud in there and everything like that. But when you have that same thing, but now it's going against you, are we really expecting that some of these other guys, these ancillary pieces, are going to have a big game again? Can we expect much out of Cason Wallace? Can we expect much out of Isaiah Joe? Are we going to be getting these big-time performances out of guys that don't often see a lot of playing time? Even, Williams, Jalen has had some moments where he's come up very small in the postseason. Most notably, just last year against Dallas, he disappeared and really kind of cost them that series. SGA still had a fine series, but it was like Jalen was nowhere to be found. Pressure ranks up a little bit. What happens if you miss those first couple shots? Who is going to have the mental fortitude to lock in at that point? I don't doubt Pascal Siakam, a guy that has been in this arena before, won a ring with the Raptors. I expect him to kind of continue to play well. Can anyone else on Indiana give you a little bit of a lift? It is at home. Normally, your role players play way better at home. They're a lot more comfortable. They got the crowd behind them. They don't feel the pressure of the road and kind of everything that brings with it. Can you get something more out of Miles Turner? Because what he gave you in game 2 was rough. And that's being gentle. Can we get something out of him? Some rebounding would be wonderful. They dominated the rebounding in game 1, which is not typical of Indiana. They have been getting out-rebounded this entire year. And that came back to the norm in game 2. The flip side of that is, they had almost 20 more turnovers and they still won that game, which is a crazy stat. And that came back down to the norm, and they were both about even in that category. So which pieces for Indiana can step up and which pieces for OKC shrink in the moment a little bit? And when are we going to finally really get some Tyrese Haliburton? He had a moment, obviously, a huge moment in game 1, hitting a game winner. It's pretty big. It's about as big as it comes. But really, he had a pretty bad game. It was really quiet pretty much the entire game. Game 2, same deal. Now he's going up against Luke Dort. He's going up against Cason Wallace. He's going up against SGA. I mean, they can just throw one guy after another, that all play great defense. Alex Caruso comes in there and guards him. So they got a number of guys that they can throw at him that are physical, that are quick, that get up under him, and are just giving him hell. I mean, they are just really inside his jersey at this point and giving him a hard time. But he's going to be at home. will he be able to rise up a little bit and give a little bit more of a vintage performance, because he's had a couple of rough ones here to open up outside of the game winner. The other really, really interesting thing that I can't wait to see is, does SGA get those calls when he's on the road? Because he gets a lot of love when he's at the Paycom Center. They give him a lot of touch fouls, a lot of close ones. Most things end up going his way that are, we'll call them questionable. The guy flails a lot. Incredible score, but there's a lot of herky-jerky movement that does not look natural on a basketball court. And he ends up laying down on the ground off of created contact more times than is what is fun to watch on a basketball court. Now, you got to shoot double-digit free throws here in Game 2. Does he get that same kind of whistle in Game 3? Fortunately, that is going to be a big part of it, because the way that you can defend him and how physical you can be with him is going to dictate pretty much everything for OKC, because it starts with him. He's the head of the snake. So if you can't really get into him and he's able to get steps and he's able to get room and attack, and then if you help, it's all the help side guys that are wide open and all those shooters step into rhythm, then you're going to have a long night. It's going to be really hard, really, really hard to beat OKC. They're a great team if you aren't allowed to defend SGA, which, as much as OKC wants to hate it, there's a reason that people were calling him a free throw merchant. It is what it is. So I'm curious on that point to see what the whistle looks like, because that is going to dictate a lot of what happens in this thing. They need to get some more out of Miles Turner. If you get something out of Bryant off the bench in the minimal minutes that he gives you, if they give him 10 minutes or so, and if you can get, some rebounds, some stops, and just a presence down low, counter off as much as you can Isaiah Hartenstein, that'd be huge for them. All that being said, I think best case scenario for Indiana is a split at home. I don't think they're beating this team twice there. And I'm not sure they're getting one. I think there's a real possibility this thing still ends in 5. If the Thunder have a chance to close it out in 5, it's done. They're going to close it out at home. If they split this series, though, this 2-game series on the road, you come back, I expect OKC to win that game still. I think OKC's winning Game 5 regardless. So then it turns into, can the Indiana win back-to-back games? Again, Thunder haven't lost back-to-back games this entire year, but at least get that first one at home. You sneak that one, at that point, anything is possible. If you have a 1 or 2 games left and one of them's at home, you get a heater there. You go into that Game 7 and nerves are going to be tight. Oh, nerves are going to be tight. You have a real chance at knocking off this team. And by the end of this series, we're either going to have one of the single greatest playoff runs, one of the single greatest seasons in NBA history for the Thunder when you look at all the stats and everything. I think a lot of that has to do with the new CBA and the fact that it's prohibited teams from building the way that they used to. And so many teams that would have challenged them or been better than them this year got hamstrung, and you lose guys, and all of a sudden your rosters are really, really rough. Whereas OKC, this new CBA came in at the perfect time for them, where they had just drafted really well. And so they were able to spend money elsewhere on all the extra pieces and not really spend it on their young 3 stars. Those paydays are coming down the pipe. These things always look like they're going to last longer than they actually are. But if it gets to Game 7, do we really expect some of those guys to not feel those nerves? Who on Indiana is going to shrink? It's going to be some people. Some of them are going to disappear because they got just as much experience or lack thereof as OKC. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's getting that far. I still feel like Game 3 is going to be OKC, and then Game 4 is going to be a pivotal point where can Indiana respond and tie up this series? Because if not, it's going to be a gentleman's sweep, 5 games, and we're done. So that's my thoughts. Let me know what y'all think. who's winning this series, any guys that stand out to you, any matchups, anything you're interested about, or if you got anything you want me to keep my eye out there for on the next few games. Like I said, I'll be out there next 2 on Indianapolis. Then I'll be back in OKC, and we'll see if they keep the series beyond that or if that wraps it up. So looking forward to figuring out who our new NBA champion's going to be and how long we got to wait before we can say that about the Suns. It feels like it's going to be a while.